Independent films, how they get financed, listen to me, with great difficulty.
1970.
That's the year I was born.
And you were born for freedom?
So, where's home?
Trinidad, West Indies.
There was a Jamaican poet.
If we must die, let it not be as
like
hogs.
hogs.
Hunted and penned in an inglorious spot.
While round about us,
Bark the mad and hungry dogs, making their mark at us.
Films inspire us. Films tell who we are. Films shape culture, builds identity. And as a national company, I think it would have been remiss if we did not support it, especially a film that would have celebrated and commemorated the life of this hero.
The mission has always been to provide Caribbean people with their own images, for them to see themselves and the world through their own eyes.
When the opportunity arose to tell the story of the most highly decorated West Indian aviator in World War II, we sort of jumped at the opportunity. I'm so happy that the film has gone from film festival to many, many accolades and awards.
Making black films is important, and therefore if it's important, we want to give it important space. So black filmmakers have to understand they have to support black film festivals.
A lot of times we sit and we wait for the money, we wait for the funding. And even from my perspective, as a creative, as well as someone who understands what making content is all about, you just have to start.
The difference between a successful film and an unsuccessful film, whether it's a blockbuster, whether it's an indie, it doesn't matter. It's the storyline. Is it plausible? Is it relatable?
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies. May we join you? Ulrich is the name. This is an absolute pleasure.
So what do you do?
Well, I'm a producer at the BBC.
Filmmakers need to understand that film is a business. And just like you would like to maybe sell shoes or sell a product, you have to find the right story that resonates with the audience or your target market.
Independent films, how they get financed, listen to me, with great difficulty. First of all, either the filmmaker would put their blood, sweat, tears, and their house on the market, really and truly, crowdfunding and so on, family and friends. If you are fortunate, you may get a grant.
In the scene where Ulrich attends the independence ceremonies in Ghana, 6th of March, 1957, we actually shot that scene with 8 actors. Then we intercut it with archive of the actual independence ceremony. And you could see the crowds of literally millions and millions of people cheering. And so what we were able to do with that was, in a very economical way, recreate a scene from history that showed that Ulrich was there.
I've always contended that the film, if you want to build a film industry, you treat it like how we built the oil industry in the early days. Tax-free, equipment coming in, special tax-free allowances, grants. Other societies are building very elaborate film industries, and it's not done just by private means and by their own means. It's done with state help and concessions and so on.
Film is terribly expensive to produce in relative terms to many of the other art forms, and it requires a number of financing.
So gap financing really is just a fancy way of saying bridging finance. Right? And so we're all familiar with bridging finance, but we just think about it really with mortgages and other type of financing.
You know, in some countries in Africa, particularly in West Africa, they have a number of credit guarantee schemes that allow for filmmakers and other creators to access capital.
Because we don't have public funding in the Caribbean. We don't have broadcasters who are able to invest the kind of money that is needed to make international films. We don't have, you know, a private sector that is willing to invest in the risky business of film production.
There's something called the micro-budget film, which is really the domain in which we operate. You know, it's those small budgets that would be the cost of catering or less, even on a massive production. And what would happen is we bootstrap, really. You know, you use your own money, you put it in, you use credit cards, you get friends to put money in. Fortunately, for Hero, if we use Hero as an example, a corporate sponsor, Republic Bank Limited, came forward and invested in this film from a position of corporate social responsibility. And I think that that is the way that so many micro-budget films are able, independent films are able to be made.
I mean, many aspects of this story appeal to us. One was the fact that there were strands of Africa. You know, it was a story of a man who dragged himself up, I think. I mean, he started off in Belmont. It shows you what somebody could achieve. Republic Bank had our roots in a very humble beginning. And so we saw parallels between his story and our own story. And that really attracted us to this film.
So it has to align with that company's core values. It has to have messaging that could build people, that could act as role models, that young people could look at it and say, hey, you know, I could do this. Oh, here I am, I'm seeing me.
This is not an industry where we want to go cap in hand and say, give us money because we deserve it, but really creating value for that sponsor, whether it's through product placement or whether it's through partnerships to create a social media program that runs before, after the production of the film, but adding value to corporate sponsors who can invest in your film.
There's really only one marker of success, and that marker of success is relative to the purpose of the financing. So if what we are talking about is grant financing, if what we are talking about is power to make a difference financing, if it came from an institution such as the Republic Bank, if what we are talking about is sponsorship, then the measurement of success is different.
Our sponsorships and our contributions portfolio is guided by policy. We'll also look at it through a sustainability lens. Where will this be going? How is it going to, what's the impact? Who will it be impacting? You know, we'd look for national impact, we would look for regional impact. What's the ability or the capacity of it to survive, of it to evolve, of it to develop?
If the financing is financing that is meant to generate a positive return to the investor or to the lender, there's only one measurement of success, and that's the return on the investment, and that's a financial return on the investment.
The employment around filmmaking, I think it's growing. Trinidad could be seen as a location for filming, right? But you also have to have the local talent that could be used, you know, so there's a big role there for education at both the undergraduate and the graduate level, you know, so that when producers are looking for film and they're looking for talent, you have a pool of talent locally of qualified people. There must be opportunities locally, regionally for them to hone their skills.
My biggest recommendation to filmmakers is that they need to understand the market for their particular genre of film. Who are the key stakeholders that you need to collaborate with to ensure that you can minimize your risk to market? I would say that is absolutely critical that you find other filmmakers that are often at your same stage of development so that you are learning from each other. You may also want to find a mentor, someone who can provide you with a bit of a passport, more like a visa into the market spaces that you need to get into.
TTT's tagline is Live for Local, and it is our mantra, it is our goal to ensure that we are creators of our local culture, of our local stories, and we showcase it to the world.
We recognize our need to be the nucleus of this ecosystem, and for that we have been working very closely with stakeholders, state and private sector actors in the industry to ensure that we provide a platform for local content and content that is produced here in Trinidad and Tobago, as well as content that is relevant to us here in Trinidad and Tobago.
A good story will make it in the world. If you look at the history of films that have made it, there are quite a lot of films that have come out of societies like ours and told the stories like our stories, and they've charmed people elsewhere. There's a dearth of good stories coming out of Hollywood. Hollywood is repeating and remaking things over and over, the same stories. But the rest of the world isn't doing that. They're all new stories. They're all interesting stories, and we are part of that.
One of the exciting things as well is that helped in building the profile of the film. You know, Francis Ann said, Lisa, we're going to South Africa, you know, and we were going to be part of DISCOP, which was the to pitch the film at this international pitch competition. Francis Ann and I had prepared this tag team, you know, we're going for them. Said, well, only one person could pitch. Like, what? And it's an elevator pitch, and no props, no material, no trailer, nothing. And we had prepared this fantastic pitch. And they said, and Lisa, it's going to be you because you did the video pitch. Needless to say, your girl went in there in her true Trini fashion and killed it. We won. Hero, The Life and Times of Ulrich Cross, is directed by the award-winning filmmaker Francis Ann Solomon. It talks about an ordinary man from the Caribbean who exists in a very exciting time. You know, this is a fascinating story that I believe people from Trinidad and Tobago, the Caribbean, Africa, the diaspora need to know, that you can be just an ordinary person and influence on a global scale.
The most lasting impact that corporate citizens can make is to provide an enabling environment for creatives to function and to continue to create.
I want people to watch the film and see Ulrich Cross as a champion, as a hero, as someone they may not have heard of before, or they may have heard of part of his life, or they might know everything. But when they watch it, they get inspired and they say, wow, you know, I want to find out more. Who else? Who's next? You know?
This is a story that comes out of Trinidad. It's not a story that, you know, is told from a British perspective or a Canadian perspective, or that has anybody else's angle but ours. And so I hope in the future that young filmmakers coming up will be able to have access to better resources. But the lesson of Hero is that it can be done.
Go well, Mr. Cross, and do big things.